We are live, and wow. It's December. Oh my gosh. And it is that space between. Wowzers. Welcome, everybody. Hello. And Mark, what a hat.
Thank you very much.
What a hat.
Happy festive at this time of the year. We're close. We're 6 days and counting, you know.
Oh, yes, lovely.
So,
I know you felt bereft that you hadn't got your Santa's hat, Dan.
Yeah, I used to have one, but I took it out to too many parties and it got a bit moth-eaten and dirty. So I think I really threw it in the bin.
So yeah, you need to invest in a new one then, hey?
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, it's funny just before you came on, Mark, Dan and I were talking about I said I felt like I was somewhat limping into the last week before Christmas and definitely in need of a switch the laptop off moment. And I guess that's quite often the thing, isn't it? Is we kind of go, we're nearly there, December, we've got to get all this stuff done. We've got to, what is it for us? It's that whole all the deadlines and then the switch off and then we'll pick it up in the new year. And I guess it kind of feels like I just keep reading things online where people are going, I just feel like I've got to sort all of this stuff. And I think the phrase that I saw in one social media post and then swan in like Nigella to, beautifully deliver Christmas, day and the turkey and all the rest of it, and look wonderful. And it made me smile because I guess that kind of says it all, really. Tends to take a lot out of us because we pressurize 4 weeks into 2 and then try and balance everything. I don't know. Go on then, Santa Mark.
I think, somebody was having this conversation with me earlier. With a client I was working with, he was talking about it's a bit arbitrary. We just decide that the start of the year is January, and therefore we all have to wind down to wind up again at the start of the year. We forget it all in January. But I disagree because I think there's a cultural history within us that goes back thousands and thousands of years, where at this time of the year we were shut down because we live in the part of the world where how much sunlight do we get this time of the year, right? We were agrarian cultures, you weren't farming, you weren't growing anything. So there was very little industry, there was very little business. So as a people, we wintered, we slowed down and then we got going again in a couple of weeks after the winter ended. And pagan-wise, there was an unbelievable festival for solstice on the 21st of December, which is on Sunday. Beside us, I'm beside Newgrange, which is a temple that's built to the solstice. It's older than the pyramids. And every year, and I go up every year on the 21st, it's a lovely celebration there. And the sun, for twice in the last 15 years, has actually come through the clouds. It lights up the chamber on the 21st. It's the way it's built. It's amazing. Wow. But it's just that, so there's a part of us that is used to that. And even from a circadian rhythm perspective, the darkness has been closing in all the time. And I think part of our makeup and our physiology is we need it too. Now, unfortunately, we do then try and do everything really, really fast, and then, we get to this point. But what I do love about this time, and maybe even the space between, right? So there is that bit of space between, the Christmas and New Year's thing. And if you're lucky enough not to have to work or not to be working or not to be required to work, you don't actually have anything else to do. You're not supposed to be cleaning those gutters. You're not supposed to be fixing that gate. You're not supposed to be doing all those other things and jobs and stuff that's around. You're actually allowed to sit down, eat an entire child's weight in Quality Street, and watch average to terrible movies, and there's something very nice about that.
I absolutely agree with you. I think it is that there's no expectation because no one's going to be picking up the phone because everybody is going to be off on Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and therefore it is just that sort of suddenly that, and to be able to switch our minds off to something that doesn't require any level of doing to actually participate in it. I will say I started on the Christmas movies last weekend while I was doing something. I had it on in the background, and I will say that there is some wonderful films out there that can suitably switch one's brain off very quickly. But it's that whole thing of we're allowing ourselves that space. And I guess that why don't we do that more often? Why don't we stop long enough to kind of absorb that? I don't know, Dan, what you?
Yeah, well, we probably ought to, really. It would do us some good if we did. And I loved how Mark described it there. And obviously, it is something that goes back a long time, isn't it? It's not actually just cultural. It is to do with the seasons. It's to do with the axis of the earth and where we are in relation to the sun and stuff like that. It's not a cultural thing. And we are part of the planet. We are part of nature. And when you see most other mammals, they do slow down this time of year. Some of them hibernate, some of them semi-hibernate, but not us. We ramp it right up. And we do 2 months work in 3 weeks. And you've got all those people in sales who've got their year end coming. So they're there doing 15, 16, 17 hour days. Got to get that over the line.
Yeah.
How many people actually, in that lovely gap that Mark talked about there, will actually switch off? Or will they be up here planning, January, wondering about meetings and targets and all that sort of thing? Well, because it seems to me in modern world, we've lost the art of switching off, of doing absolutely F all. We seem to be unable to do it. Rest makes us feel guilty. We feel like it needs to be earned. That gap and that pause, we need much more of that in our lives. We're running around at 100 miles an hour. Our heads are going at 100 miles an hour. We're not relaxed. We're not present in the moment. We're not aware of what's going on around us because we're all stuck up in here, jumping from one thing to the next, 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 to the next. And we're not built to do that. We need downtime. We need decompression time. We need to just spend a little bit of quiet time with ourselves. We talked about it today, Laura, on your post, or was it on my post, about having that contemplation time, just to let it tick over a little bit and make a bit of room for inspiration and new ideas and new ways of approaching things and doing things. That space is so important. And I would, that gap that Mark said we've got there, I would encourage everyone, even if it's just 20 minutes, take some time for yourself, read a book, go for a walk, do something just for you, just something that gives you energy instead of drains your energy.
And I think yes, right. You call it contemplation. I call it acknowledgement. Although I'm loving this phrase, wintering. So we're going to do some wintering, folks. Some wintering. But Mark, what do you think we, lose when we're rushing from one chapter to another chapter to another chapter? Because we must lose something, surely. When we're kind of not taking that opportunity to winter.
We lose the present. We lose where we are because it's always the next thing. And I know, like in my head, I was thinking, okay, I've got 4 clients to meet tomorrow. I've got these emails to send. I've got these other invoices to send out because I have to send them before the end of December. I have to do, and my head is spinning with all these things I have to do because then it'll be fine. Then I can relax, And that's fine because I know there isn't a requirement of me. I have a little bit to do on Monday, but there's not a requirement of me to be doing other stuff. But the most of the rest of the year, all it is I've got to do that and do that and do that. And then I can do that other thing. And then I'll be able to do that. And then there'll be that thing. And then when I get that thing done, there'll be that thing. And then there's be that thing. Because we have all these things in our head all the time. Like, no wonder we're overwhelmed. There's no space. Like, there's no space between any of the stuff here. It's just this big mumble and jumble of different stuff. Like, and wherever we look, there's stuff we know we have to do. There's stuff we need to be doing. There's stuff we should be doing. And then we stop at the shoulds. If we start at the shoulds, what should I be doing? Hold on a second, right? Why should I be doing that? What's the reason I should be doing that? Okay.
Yeah, who says?
Yeah. Do I need to do that? Do we need to do that? Could I be doing something different? So let's switch that language from the should language into the could language, into what's possible, what's good, what would be good for me, what would I like to do, what would I want to do, what do we need to do, what are the good things for me? Unfortunately, we're so driven by, oh, you need to be earning more money, or you need to be doing this job, or you need to be whatever, you know. So sometimes the needs we think we have are not our needs. The needs we think we have are our need to meet other expectations. So a good space to start, right? Apart from the shoulds to the coulds, the expectations. What are the expectations we've placed on ourselves based on others? What are the expectations we place on ourselves based on the society that we live in? What are the expectations we place on ourselves based on the people that we live with? You know, and so they have an expectation of us, but their expectation of us is only because of how we've always been. You know, like if you always help someone, if someone always calls looking for help and you always help, no matter what, fair enough, right? But if they begin to abuse that relationship, you're the person who has set that up, the expectation you've created. So look at those expectations and go, well, wait a second, what would my future self expect of me? You know, what would a relaxed version of me tomorrow morning expect me to do today to get to that state? Oh, okay, that's an interesting person. Let's listen to that guy for a second. Maybe he has an insight, you know, but we never listen to that guy because we don't give him time.
And that's so true. I'm just going Chris has said, you know, and I think this is very true. Non-stop hustle grind life is not living at all.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. I think, you know, expectations is such a big one because quite often we outgrow those expectations and then are still almost like carrying them like a backpack, and like we should have actually left them some time ago because we're past those, and yet we haven't paused to notice that's not, you know, you talk about the person you are tomorrow, my future self, and looking back, well, you know, actually that's the person we should be asking ourselves, and is that expectation really realistic now, or have we outgrown it and we've just still carried it along because we actually haven't paused, we haven't wintered? You know, I guess that's a real question for me. It's like, how often do we just carry stuff forward just because?
All the time, yeah. And when you don't have that space and that pause, you don't question anything, do you? You just keep doing it because you always have, because you think you should, you must, you have to, you ought to. And that's why that contemplation time, that bit of space, that pause, that rest, that deregulate, decompress, that's why that's so important. So you can question all the BS rules that we end up living our lives by, because most of them we haven't made up. They've been given to us by somebody else, by our culture, by our parents, by our upbringing, our education. And it forms that unconscious belief system that then runs our life, that forms the lens through which we see everything. And if we never stop to question it, and this is the thing, right? When you get into our sort of period of life, midlife, and you go, is this it? Like, is this what I was here for? To hustle and grind and keep trying to earn a few quid? I've got this nice house and nice car and got this lovely family. Why am I still miserable? Because we're living by this set of rules we've never stopped to question. We're doing all these things we think we should, or we think other people expect that we will. And we don't do anything to serve ourselves anymore. And we think, oh no, that's selfish. I need to put so-and-so and this and that and everything before me. And it's like, but if you do that, you've got nothing to give. You've got no, you're not present because you're all stuck up in here. Yeah. So you're not giving anybody the gift of your attention. And you're always running on 45% energy at the most. Like our phones, we give them a break. We let them recharge. We switch them off. But yet us, we keep going. Our cars, we put oil in the engine. We take it to get serviced. But us, no, we just keep going.
And that's so true. I think that, you know, but I think to that point there, I think so many people, I don't know, do they fear pausing?
Yeah.
Is it, you know, that slowing down actually feels unsafe and, you know, they don't want that stillness? Why do you think so many people feel like it's doing, I'm going to say doing nothing. They're not doing nothing. Actually, they're resting their brains, I guess. But I guess, why do you think so many people feel uncomfortable doing that?
Well, the greatest challenge we face in life is sitting alone in our own room.
Yeah.
You know, like we can't sit with ourselves. I think that's a part of it. You can't sit with yourself. You know, and therefore you have to keep running from yourself, and you're chasing yourself away, and you've always got TV on or radio on or something on to distract yourself from yourself. you're always distracting yourself from the present world, and therefore you're in the past or in the future. You're not being present. You know, you're worried about something in the past. You're worried about the stuff in the future. You weren't trying to create it. I was doing a post the other day about, like, you know, the parallels of A Christmas Carol with our modern life. You know, and like, he's visited by the three ghosts, the past, present, and future. And like, how many of us are living a life today in the present based on keeping our past self safe, making sure our past self doesn't feel in danger, doesn't feel a risk of shame anymore, making sure our past self lives up to the ideals that they thought were the most important ones, about success, about how you work hard all the time no matter what, but, you know, these kind of ideas. And here we are in the present trying to live that life for that person, and our future self is going, hello, hey, look at, you know what I want, right? But yeah, we have these ideas that what our future self wants as success is to be really successful, is to whatever it is, and you know, or, you know, whatever ideal we have for his future self. Well, we never stopped and asked, hey, do we really want that? Like, you know, is that really worth doing it? But it's an interesting dichotomy, and like, the challenge is to live in the present. But to live in the present, we've got to let go of a lot of baggage from the past. We've got to let go of a lot of old selves, a lot of voices, a lot of ideas and beliefs that we've kept with us for so long. Like, it'd be great if we could all get visited by the ghosts of these three things, and by Jacob Marley's ghost, and shake this out of us over one night, right? But it's not likely to happen. We need to do the work ourselves and go through that. And so that idea of us not being able to pause is simply because we're being driven by something else that's not in the present. You know, we're being driven by Sue Hetherington. This is the last thing I'll say. I had a lovely post about what's important and about, you know, where she gets her news. And it made me think of, and I don't know if you know her, she writes a lovely post. She's a poet. Writes lovely posts on LinkedIn. It made me think of, you know, I get my news sometimes being on the beach and looking at the stars before the sun has come up. And sometimes I get my news from walking the dog and the birds in the trees. And sometimes I get my news from noticing something moving on the ground. And it's just a little insect and it's just crawling across the grass. Because in those three places, I'm just right there and there's nothing else going on. And maybe that's the most important news that I need. I don't need some news that's going to make me think about that or this or that, you know? And maybe that's just a pause. And while it can be hard to pause, a pause is tuning into what's around us. That's a pause too. Mm. You know? It's not just about you have to stop and sit there. Okay.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what people think, though, isn't it? Is that actually you literally are not doing anything. Like, you know, it's always static. And I think you it's amazing what surfaces, and I think you've hit it like firmly on the head there, and what in the way you describe it, you know, like licking the ground as an insect. What you notice is so much richer. That's what surfaces when you're totally present in the moment. I just think it's a solely different way of living. But to your point, when the world around us is setting expectations, goals, challenges, and the next thing, you know, we're already on to, you know, 6 months down the line. It's very hard to remain grounded and in that moment. I mean, I know.
Yeah, there's so much to draw our attention away from us, isn't there? Especially in the modern world. Like, we have information fired at us from all angles. And I think it's a lot of that is what makes us afraid to sit still, because we think everyone else is moving. We think we're going to get left behind. And I know what happens to men is men often believe that their value is in their output and in their usefulness. Mm-hmm. And if they're sat doing nothing, they're not being useful. Therefore, they're not valuable. Yeah. And it's a modern disease that we've tied up our enoughness in our perceived productivity, what we're doing. We've turned into human doings. We're not human doings. And the space between is being, right? Because we are human beings, and just allowing ourselves to be and be here now, noticing what we notice, using our senses, understanding how we feel in the moment. How often do people just stop and say, how do I feel right now? What's going on for me right now? What can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? What's around me? People don't do it anymore, do they? The minute they get a second, they're like this. It's like, come on, look up. Look at this beautiful, wonderful, abundant world that we live in. This will tell you the world is horrible and full of death and destruction. It is not.
It's so right. And the thing that's going through my head is I think the world perceives that they're stalling, whereas in actual fact what we're saying is that they're really settling. They're kind of just settling into where they are right now, rather than a pause is like, I'm never going to get started again. I'm going to be behind. I'm
lazy.
We're going to think I'm lazy or I'm not enough. And sorry, the what?
Or we think we're being lazy, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, again, as you say, Dan, is that belief that our worth is tied up in. I'm hesitant about using the word productivity because I question whether it's really productivity. It's just movement. I mean, but movement that's not. Sorry.
It's just busyness.
Yeah, that's probably the best word, because we're not being productive. We are just busy for busy's sake. And actually, what is the right thing to be doing? Well, the right thing to be doing is to be grounded in ourselves, to be, kind of like really conscious of our position in where we're moving forward to. Because it's too easy that we can get caught in the noise and abandon ourselves. With the world, and of course, then we go into January, and then January will go, well, you should be doing this. You haven't lost enough pounds. Have you hit your goals? It's like, so all of that calm for 2 weeks, and then we're suddenly 1st of January, we'll be piling back on the pressure of ourselves. Because we'll be starting again. It'll be a new year, and we go back to Mark's point about, well, who decided that January was the start of the year, other than how dark it is, etc., etc. And therefore, there's only so much one can physically do when it's dark. I don't know. It's
it doesn't feel like the start of anything on the 1st of January, because it's like, Jesus, it's crap outside. What is this the start of anything? Like, realistically, the start of the year should be the first day of spring. That's the start of the year. That's when the year is beginning again. You can't start, you shouldn't start a year in the middle of winter. It's still winter. So anyone who's listening, I am giving you 100% a reason not to kick in any resolutions, not to kick in any of that crap, right? Because the year does not start until that first daffodil is poking its head out of the ground. So those buds are coming to those trees. Because, again, to go back to the fact that we are human animals on this planet, we evolve with the planet, and we've evolved with the planet. So spring is where we should start. And spring is, how do you feel when you see the first flowers come in? How do you feel when you suddenly see the leaves come back on the tree? It's lovely. You go, oh God, spring is coming again. We all love that season because it feels like finally we're getting out of the darkness. There's not much different energy to begin. If you're about, we kind of, for New Year, begin new things. It's a very different energy to begin in that space with, as opposed to you're trying to begin all these resolutions, whatever else, in the energy and space of, I've eaten so much chocolate, I can't move. It's not an energy that's...
And it's dark, and it's raining.
I can't watch The Bachelor again. Not again. It's not an energy that's conducive to doing and being. You don't even go outside. But and maybe, because we're talking about the space between, and maybe that space between winter and whatever it is the 1st of February, is it the 1st of March? Maybe that is the space between when we need to winter a little bit better. And there's a great book, Wintering. That word, it comes from a lady coined that a few years ago. I can't remember her name. I read the book, it was very, very good. And she just talks about how wintering, it's a bit like that time in life as you get older, where you settle into the rhythm of what was happening in the year, and you kind of assimilate. Well, what was good this year? What did I learn? How did I grow? What do I want to bring forward into next year? What do I want to let go? And you do it at the right time in the same way that our world around us does. And then you feel like, okay, well, this is fine. I'm stepping out into the world as the world is stepping out into itself. The Bears are not waking up on the 26th of December or on the 1st of January and going, woohoo, right, okay, we're first of the year, let's go, lads. So the pressure we put ourselves under, for that thing that you have to do. Thank you very much, Catherine May. That is it. It was a lovely, lovely book. Somebody put the comment there. Oh, you put it in there.
But and you're right. It's actually maybe we do need to slow that pace and actually do the nurturing like the bears do, and they hide away and they're when do they appear again? Spring. You know, and surely that's where we would gain strength from doing that.
Yeah, we're so out of tune with the rhythms of nature, and again, it's the modern world and modern life and busyness that takes us out of it. Like where I live in the middle of nowhere now, up in the hills, and I'm on a journey to being self-sufficient. So I grow a lot of my own fruit and veg and stuff these days. So I'm more in tune with the seasons than I have ever been, and at the moment, I'm sleeping more than I have throughout the year. So I'm going to bed at 10 and I'm getting up at 7. Normally it's a bit later and I get up about 6. And I'm just allowing myself to do that. I'm not setting an alarm and saying, right, get out of bed and get going and do your morning routine. I think, well, this is what my body's saying to me to do. This is it's winter. It's dark out. Stay in bed. Stay asleep. And I know that it's easy for me to do. I run my own business. I am my own boss, but I have created this life deliberately. But I think, yeah, we could all be a bit more in tune with the seasons, and because our life goes in seasons too, right? And there are times where we're getting our head down and getting some stuff done. There are times where we can make space to contemplate, and winter is a really good time to make some space to contemplate, because we're not out and about. There's not a ton of stuff to do. It is dark. Instead of flooding yourself with unnatural light and screens and keeping busy all the time, and there's always stuff to do. There's never not going to be stuff to do. And don't fall for the "I'll be all right when" fallacy. Like when I retire, kids leave home, when I go on holiday, when I've signed the next contract, when I get a pay rise. You won't. Make the space now for that bit of quiet contemplation. And that way you get to know yourself better. This is the thing. This is why we're all so afraid to sit still, because we don't know ourselves. We don't know what we really want. And actually stillness just makes us anxious. So we cover it up with eating or boozing or something to numb ourselves out to it, rather than actually sitting and feeling it and understanding what's happening to us and really being with nature and the rhythms of nature. Like Mark said, we're human animals. We're very much part of nature. Yet we've created this world that we exist in where we feel like we're separate from it.
And I think that's the thing is, I mean, I notice how easily I can get drawn into other people's rhythm and how that's not my rhythm. And I have to actively step back to be able to connect into a rhythm that's mine, because it's too easy for me to get drawn into others, because unless I switch off the world and tune into me, I'm caught in the noise of Christmas, the noise of the work I'm doing, the noise of my family. It's, I describe it as it's like I'm in a dinghy on the high seas, but if I'm not tethered to, or throw an anchor to the bottom of the sea first, then I'm tethered just to the other dinghies, and then I'm like this all over the place, and I lose contact with myself, and that then I'm just, my favorite phrase, pushing water uphill with a rake, because I'm not actually connected with myself. I'm connected to everybody else and the energy of everybody else and the expectation of everybody else. And then I go, well, that's not aligned with my life. And I think I see so many people who are working in organizations where the organization is setting the rhythm. They don't realize how disconnected they've become from what matters to them and what's really going to support them. They haven't let go of that, and are wondering why they're exhausted, they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, because it's the constant push and no pause. Maybe we need to pause and just say, look, it's a reconnection. It's not necessarily a pause. It's not forever. It's just a reconnection, a moment of checking in with oneself and what you still want to carry into the next season. I don't know.
I read a book there earlier this month for a book club that I'm in, and it was called The Anomaly, and it was written it's in French originally, it's translated into English. And the concept was that a plane landed, and then 3 months later, the exact same plane appeared in the sky, the exact same plane, all of the same people on the plane. And they're trying to figure out what has happened, how is this real, and then the plane lands, and they realize what has happened. They realize these are all exactly the same people. And then they start introducing the people to each other. So the people are identical in every single way because they're like more or less a carbon copy of the person. The only difference is one person has 3 more months life experience than the other person. That's it, right? And so I thought it's an interesting concept. It could have been better, right? But I thought about it as I was reading it, and with the coaching hat comes on you too often when you're reading these things. And like if you met yourself, your exact self, so the person in front of you knows every single thought that has ever passed through your head. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. You cannot hide a single thing from this person. The first thing they probably say to most of us is what the fuck are you doing? Because there's no hiding, like they'll be able to see, we'll be able to see ourselves exactly in that moment, see ourselves 100%. And what you were talking there, Laura, like one of the greatest tragedies of life is to pass the whole way through it and never meet ourselves in the way. At no point do we ever meet ourselves in the way. And like, we begin knowing ourselves and we have to learn ourselves again. And because we forget ourselves in the struggle for growing up and the struggle to be and the struggle to fit in and all those other things. And some of us never get back to knowing ourselves or meeting ourselves again. And that is an absolute tragedy, because we're putting the word, you mentioned the word joy there earlier on, Dan. And I had a question today about the simple questions, the most profound ones, about where are you going or what are you doing? But really, the most important question, and whenever I ask those questions to people, it comes down to another question: is where is the joy in your life? Mm-hmm. And I listened to, I wish I could remember her name. I listened to her podcast a couple of weeks ago, and she said that she stopped living life in a way unless something gave her joy, she didn't do it. Yeah. That's a radical way to live life. But if you're living a life of joy, you're absolutely in tune with yourself because you cannot experience joy, because joy is an embodied experience. It's a whole thing. So you have to be in tune with yourself to experience joy. Happiness can be a fleeting thing that we can have and just disappear. But joy is something thorough. It's something right through us. It's something that is worth holding on to and trying to experience where and whenever we can.
And it's, just listening to you say that, Mark, is, and I endeavor with what I do is like, I want to feel alive, and everything I do or endeavor to do makes me feel alive. If it doesn't, I won't do it. Do I always get it right? No, because we've got to try some things to know whether it makes me feel alive or not. But because I think I spent so much time doing stuff to the expectations and all the rest of it that I was just like, why am I doing this? This is what is this for? Why is this? Why do I want to do this? I don't enjoy it. It's not making me feel alive. Why am I wasting my time on that? Time is precious. I have stepped into spaces when, I've outgrown some of those things because, we enjoyed it when we started. Then we realized that, now for me, it's aliveness, joy has passed. And we find new things because we're growing along the way. But yeah, it's really, really interesting because I think you're absolutely right. It's once we lose that connection to joy, we have lost ourselves in the noise, really. But I think the other thing that really struck me in what you were saying is the fact that so many never get back to or never meet ourselves along the way, and some never do that. And yet the irony of it is we are the only people who are, from the moment we're born to the moment we die, are on the exact same path. And so as ourselves, and so if we don't meet ourselves along that journey, that's a very lonely journey.
Yeah, and what's it all been for? And it goes back to the title of this thing that we started off with, however long it was, over a year now. It's like, are you truly living? And when I burnt out back in 2018, one of the things I realized when I look back over the last 5-10 years, apart from the fact that my mental health was shot to pieces and I was racked with anxiety constantly in stress mode, never switching off, always overthinking. I hadn't felt any joy. I couldn't remember the last time I felt joy. And we're not talking pleasure. I had a lot of pleasure in my life. In fact, I filled the time away from work with as much pleasure as I could lay my hands on, most of which was very unhealthy because I put so many walls up in order to block out all the things I thought were bad, the things I didn't want to feel. Because again, as boys, we get taught that, right? Emotions, feelings, no good for you. Good, right? Walls up. I don't feel any emotions and feelings. Great, yeah, good. Like I'm tough. Look how tough I am. And then you don't experience joy. And joy, like you were saying, Laura, is the stuff that makes you feel alive. That's what life's about. That's what we're here for. That's the clue. That's the clue to us. What you ought to be doing, how to spend your time, is joy. And most of us, just because we don't have that space between, we don't feel any joy anymore.
And in our, it absolutely is that whole thing of, how in our noisy world, in our busy world, where, and I know we were talking about this, on, a chat earlier on about the fact that, systems are playing catch up, and yet we are desperately as human beings trying to grapple with how can we be ourselves in a world that's trying to make us into something else, in a system, and I use a system in the grandest scale. It could be at various different, which is still playing massive catch up. And that's the biggest disconnect here is how can we continue stepping into that space without losing ourselves to that noise. And I think that's the piece that I see as the evolution that we're heading into, and that is the struggle so many are experiencing.
So it's time to take a step back and just be a little bit with ourselves, just a little bit, whatever it is. Like, we can bring it from the point of joy, like, from a simple perspective. Right? This is how out of tune, and excuse the pun because I'm going to talk about music we all are, but like loads of people out there love music, and yet they don't listen to it. They hear a song like, oh, I like that song. Why are you not putting music on if you love music? Why is it not part of your life? Why is it not playing when you're making the dinner? Why is it not filling those spaces with something that you love? Like, if we're going to keep on filling the space, then fill it with the stuff that fills you up, that lights you up, that gets you going, that turns you into the direction that you want to do, And like, for some, let's be honest with you, Christmas can be tough because being in the bosom of family is not a place they want to be, or they don't have people to be with around Christmas time, or the very idea of what we do and watch the crap movies, but then that's okay. Like, that's absolutely okay. What is right by you? That's the important question. What is right by you? Whose life are you trying to live? Like, is it yours or someone else's? And what would you do if it was yourself in front of you saying, hey, do you know what I'd love to do? What's the answer to that question? That's what you do. Go and do that. Go and do that and enjoy doing that, because that's the enjoy part of what we're trying to achieve.
So Mark is going to be enjoy doing what at Christmas?
Oh, good question. A good bit of time with family. I hope to get up a mountain. I will not be on any social media whatsoever, which is always a pleasure. I read a book on Stephen's Day. I just sit and I read a book. I started in the morning and I read an entire book the whole day. I just love it. It's great. No one bothers me because everyone wants to do their own thing, because we've been away. The first day would be away the day after. And I would do a few things that I want to do. Just enjoy. I'm going to meet a few people and spend some time with people, and I'm going to be lazy too.
Sounds perfect. Dan, other than having a fabulous 7-course meal at the pub, which you won't have to cook, you might have to do the washing up, but only
if I forget my wallet.
Yeah. So other than that, what will you be doing?
Well, it's very similar to Mark. I will be out climbing hills where I live. I will be reading a book. I will be spending some quality time with my wife. I'll be doing whatever the hell I want. I'll be doing what I feel like doing in the moment. I won't be on social media. I won't be talking to clients. I won't be worrying about my marketing or if I've got any emails to reply to, any of that. All that's going to stop for 2 weeks. And my wife and I will get up every day, and apart from Christmas Day, where we've got the meal at the pub, what do we fancy doing today? And we'll do that.
Nice.
Sounds wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
What about you, Laura?
You know, my I will go to my sister's on Christmas Day. I will hope that the dog doesn't eat Christmas pudding this year before we get to it.
That's Christmas pudding's right. Let them have it.
Yeah, you're not a fan of Christmas pudding, are you?
I'm not a great fan, so but you know, it's always helpful that the dog hasn't eaten there. So I don't know. I will go. I will join in the festivities, and I will just go with the flow as it is. Invariably, my sister has a tradition. I mean, where the tradition came from, God only knows, that she has to go for a swim somewhere on the coast on Boxing Day.
Oh, I might do it.
And so she does that. She thinks her kids still want to do that. Funnily enough, they don't. So usually I'm there, you know, making the turkey sandwiches so that we can eat those on the beach. But yeah, so I actually get off fairly easily on Christmas. And beyond that, I will just be doing not very much, to be honest. You know, much the same. There are no mountains around in Tunbridge Wells, I hasten to add. No, I will be praying that there is water, obviously. There's lots of rain currently. But yeah, so other than that, my 2-3 weeks will be relatively quiet. Certainly, you know, a couple of days with kids, not my own, clearly. But yeah, and then, I don't know, then the new year starts and who knows, maybe some sunshine. Who knows? But as ever, pleasure to join you on the call. Have a wonderful Christmas, and I'm sure we'll see each other in the new year. Bright and breezy, having wintered, eaten far too many chocolates, and feeling raring to go and full of joy. Anyway, happy Christmas.
Yeah,
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I will see everybody or see you all in 2026, which feels a bit scary. Fabulous. And you're not going to sing, you know, we wish you a Merry Christmas, guys?
You don't want to hear me.
I won't.
No, I'm better off.
I won't pressure you.
It's not going to bring anyone joy, that, let me tell you.
It's illegal for me to sing in most states in this country, so.
I won't put you to the test then.